Why, hello everyone, and welcome to our video series on the transport system. Now, in this video, we'll be covering the main parts of the transport system in plants. So let's start off by talking about flowers. How many of you have ever bought flowers for someone before? Well, I remember I bought flowers for my mom and my then girlfriend and now wife before, and I would buy things like sunflowers, but never in my life when I went to the flower shop, did I come across a flower that looked something like this. A rainbow colored flower with different colors, red, green, blue, yellow. How would you make something like that? Now, if you're thinking hard, you might have an idea. You might say, well, that's probably just a white flower that's been soaking up some dye. And if you're thinking that, then you're probably right. You see, the way that we can make such beautiful flowers, and I think these are carnations, would be to allow the flowers to grow in some colored water. And what you see over time is the water would move up through the stem of the flower into the flower itself. Now that tells us something about the kinds of substances that are transported inside plants. So what substances are transported in plants? Well, from this little colored flower experiment, we can tell that plants transport or absorb water, right? Because it is the water, the colored water, that is being transported up the stem into the flower. Now, along with water, plants also transport or absorb mineral salts. So these mineral salts are dissolved in the water, and these mineral salts are also important nutrients for the plant to grow. So you might have heard of mineral salts, for instance, like potassium or magnesium, which are also important for plants to grow. So how are water and mineral salts absorbed? Well, they are absorbed by the roots of a plant, which you should probably already know from primary school. And having been absorbed by the roots, water and mineral salts are then transported from the roots, right, to the leaves. So in this upward direction. So water and mineral salts are usually transported in an upward direction or one direction. Yeah, maybe you light up my world like nobody else. One direction from the roots to the leaves. Alright, very rarely, if not never, do you see water and mineral salts being transported the other direction. Now, what other substances are transported in plants? Now, to answer that question, we're going to think about potatoes. Yes, potatoes which give rise to delicious, yummy things like French fries. Now, how are potatoes formed? Now, from your primary school, you probably remember that potatoes are a kind of storage organ. They are underground stems which store food, right? Now, potatoes store food, but where does that food come from? Now, hopefully you remember from primary school as well that plants make food in their leaves. So potatoes are formed when food made in the leaves is transported down underground to be stored in the potato. So over time, food is transported down from the leaves, stored in the potato, and the potato grows bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes big enough to be harvested to become French fries for you to eat. Great. So what substances are transported in plants? Besides water and mineral salts, food is also transported in plants. And by food, a specific example of food are sugars. So food is usually transported from the leaves, where the food is made, to other parts of the plant, like the roots. The transport of food usually happens in this direction. However, food can also be transported in the other direction. For example, suppose the weather is very bad or something like that, right? And the leaves of the potato plant cannot make food. Well, in that case, the food stored in the potatoes comes in handy. So the food stored in the potatoes can then be transported up back to the leaves. So transport of food can happen in both directions, right? In two directions, right? Unlike the transport of water and mineral salts, which happens in only one direction. Now at this point, I would like to remind you that you should be following us through your notes. So this is transport system notes 1A, and we are now looking at this part. So what substances are transported in plants, and we're going to finish off with this part in the rest of the video. Alright, so let's continue with that. So we have seen that plants transport food, they transport water, and they also transport mineral salts. But how are these substances transported in plants? I mean, just as buildings have pipes and drains to transport water, what kind of system, what kind of structures do plants have to transport food, water, and mineral salts? Well, one way to find out is by doing a very simple demonstration with a celery stick. What you can do is get a cup of water that is colored with some dye and put the celery stick in. So the celery will absorb some of the water. And then we can try to find what are the structures where water is absorbed. So I want you to have a look at the results. I did this at home. Hopefully I can show it to you in class too, but have a look at the results on the next slide and see what you notice. So are you ready? Ta-da! So this is our celery after it's been soaked in some blue dye. What do you notice when we look at the celery? Where is the ink found and what does it tell us? Well, you should observe that the ink is not found in the entire celery stem, right? It's not everywhere. It seems to be only in these little circle structures. And we have a name for these little circle structures. They are called vascular bundles, right? The bundles, because they look a bit like circle bundles, and vascular means transport. So they're actually vascular bundles which transport the ink. So the key point here is to know that in plants, substances are transported inside vascular bundles. Now we're going to take a closer look at the cross-section of a plant stem. Now what is a cross-section? Now imagine if a plant was growing this way, this is the plant stem, and then you came along, you took a scissors, I don't know why, and you cut the plant stem this way. And what you would have here is the cross-section. And if I look down at the cross-section in this way, so this is my eye, and I look down at this cross-section, what I would see under the microscope is something like this. Very beautiful. And you start to see something like arrangement of some structure in a circular way. So let me simplify this for you. Some people draw it out in this way. And from this diagram, you can see that in a plant stem, inside the plant stem, the vascular bundles are arranged in a ring, right? They have there's one vascular bundle here, another vascular bundle here, another vascular bundle here, and the bundles are arranged in a ring. Okay, so key point, vascular bundles are arranged in a ring. Now within the vascular bundle, there are two main parts. Okay, one part of the vascular bundle is called the phloem. Please make sure you know how to spell this. And the other part is called the xylem. So vascular bundles contain xylem and phloem tissue, two different types of cell tissue. So you notice that the phloem, this purple colored part in this diagram, the phloem is nearer the outer part of the stem. Right? This is the outer part of the stem. And the xylem is more on the inner side of the stem, right? This is the inner part of the stem. Okay, so phloem on the outside, xylem on the inside. You will need to know how to label these kind of diagrams. So something a bit extra for those who are interested is that the outer layer of the stem is called the epidermis, and then there's a layer below the epidermis called the cortex, and the innermost layer called the pith. Alright, but this is extra. All you really need to know is this part here, in the vascular bundle, this is the phloem, and the inner part of the vascular bundle is the xylem. Okay? Okay, so both the xylem and the phloem transport substances, right? That's why they are found in the vascular bundle. However, what specifically do the xylem and phloem tissue transport in particular? Now, it turns out that the xylem tissue transports water and mineral salts. Alright, so just now in the celery, even though it looks like the entire vascular bundle is stained blue, actually it's only the xylem that is stained blue, because it is the xylem that transports water and the mineral salts that are dissolved inside it. And the xylem tissue transports water and mineral salts usually from the roots up to the leaves. So one helpful way that I find to remember this is that water is more important, right? Sort of more important than food. So it is transported more inside, more deep inside the leaf, right? So the xylem, which transports water and mineral salts, is more inside the leaf. Now on the other hand, the phloem tissue transports food, and that is usually from the leaves to the other parts of the plant. So the phloem, which is on the outside of the vascular bundle, transports food. Now, a helpful way to remember this is that the phloem sounds like food, right? So phloem transports food, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. And I'm just going to end off with some interesting phloem facts, right? Now, it's interesting that some insects actually invade plants and feed on the food inside their phloem. So if you look at this aphid happily sitting on a plant stem, it is actually sinking a part of its mouth called the stylet deep into the plant to get access to the phloem. Now remember when we looked at the stem, the phloem is on the outer part, right? So imagine this is my insect here, the aphid. It's lowering its stylet down. It can actually get to the phloem first, and that's why it can suck out the food from the phloem, and then after that it will be a very, very happy aphid, because it got the food. Alright, so that's how some of my students remember that the phloem is on the outside also, because the insects are able to get to the food in the phloem easily. And I'm going to leave you with a question to think about, and then we're going to end off. So there's a kind of procedure that you can do to a plant called ringing. Okay, ringing is when you remove the outer part of the bark of a plant. So this is a plant stem, and I've removed the outer part so that I've removed the phloem. Remember, the phloem is on the outside. So I've removed the phloem, right? But I've left the xylem. The question is, can the part above the ring survive? And can the part below the ring survive? Now, what do you think? So here's a little hint. The part above goes to the leaves, right? And the part below goes to the roots. The roots are below. So let's think about it together. Pause the video here, think about it, and come back in about 5 minutes and let's discuss the answer together. Alright, so hopefully you've thought about it for a while. And the answer is this. The part above the ring can survive, but the part below the ring will not survive. Now here's why. Now remember, above the ring are where I find my leaves, and leaves are where food is made. So normally, leaves make food, and the food needs to be transported down to the roots. However, the phloem has been removed, and phloem transport food. So, the food is not going to be able to get to the roots. So the part below here will die. Now the part above can survive. Why is it? Because the leaves can make food for the part above, and the part above can still get water and mineral salts from the xylem, which is unaffected. Now in such ringing experiments, normally this is what you observe, that over some time, the tissue above the ring will start to swell up due to food that is building up here which cannot transport down to the roots. And the tissue below the ring will start to die because it has no sugar. Alright, so that's the end of this video. Just finish off the quick check on your worksheets and we'll come back to class together. Now I hope that you've enjoyed the video and learned something. You need to learn at least know what the xylem is, what the phloem is, where it is in the stem, how to find it on the diagram, and what is the function of the xylem and the phloem. Alright, see you in class.